Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Oxygenaddict video podcast. This is an episode of Ask a Coach in collaboration with IRONMAN Europe, and what we're doing here is we're answering all of the questions that you might have surrounding how to best train for an Ironman this coming year. This episode is all about answering your questions about how to best improve your swim. IRONMAN Europe have invited loads of questions through their Instagram channel, and athletes from around the world have sent those in looking for coaching advice. So I'm going to do my best to answer your questions on this episode, and hopefully we're going to get you to improve your swim in a way that allows you to swim faster for less effort. Before we go on though, you can do us a really big favour. Hit like and subscribe underneath our channel. You'll be notified of our new videos that come out, and we'll have tons of coaching content to help you improve. All right, let's get right to it. Okay, question from Pavel Vishnikov, who says, I'm always anxious at the swim start and I can't calm down. How can I improve it? Well, Pavel, look, this is a really common thing with people swimming in open water surrounded by other people. You're not alone. So there's two tips I can give you here. The first one is I want you to find somewhere relatively quiet at the swim start to sit down with your eyes closed and practice taking a deep breath in through the nose and releasing that breath through the mouth. 5 of those should really help you calm down. The second thing that you can do is you can practice for the open water swim around other people, because often the anxiety is caused because our brain is just not used to swimming in open water around other people. So either do this in training, get some friends together and go to an open water safe venue and swim there together. And you can also enter some lower key races along the way that are not as important, but are going to really help you to feel more confident swimming around other people. Okay, question from Kate Hortua 82, who says, any drills to improve kick and rotation coordination? So yes, we've got a great drill here for you called the UNCO drill, which you can go away and Google. But the purpose of this drill is not to help you have a stronger kick. It's to learn to coordinate the kick on one leg with the pushing at the waist of the hip up towards the water. So the kick, instead of driving you forwards through the water like you might see in a child's swim lesson, becomes a way to initiate this twist at the waist, which in turn will drive the shoulders to rotate as well. So really good swimmers are going to be swimming from the waist and the hips rather than with their arms. You're going to practice this with no arms to start with, and it's going to be very difficult, and then introduce one arm and then introduce the other arm and eventually introduce both arms as well. But that's really going to help coordinate the kick of your feet with the hip snap. Okay, question from Hugh Plew, who says, what's the best exercise to improve your catch? Well, Hugh, the drill I'm going to give you for this is a really simple one, but it's not easy. It's called the fist drill, and it involves taking your hands as you would normally swim and just closing your hands to form a fist. Now, the benefit of this is usually when you pull against the water, you're feeling the water with the palm of your hand, and that's going to be taken away by making a fist. So it turns out really good swimmers use all of their forearm as a paddle, not just their hand. So now, as you're going into the catch phase, you're really going to have to work to keep your elbow high under the water and lever against your forearm and pull there. To make the drill really easy, just swim 25 meters as a fist drill and 25 meters with your arms back open again. With your hands back open again. When you open those hands, try and hold on to the sensation of pulling with your forearm. Okay, question from Ocken McAllister, who says, do you have a mantra in mind for keeping easy swims easy? I always seem to speed up. Well, you're definitely not alone, Ocken. Judging the speed of your swimming in the pool or in open water is one of the most difficult skills, and even really experienced swimmers struggle with it. So the best way that we can advise you to do this is to learn to swim breathing bilaterally, which means breathing every third stroke, one breath to the right and then one breath to the left. It has a great effect on evening out your stroke mechanics, but the main benefit for an Ironman swimmer is it kind of limits the amount of oxygen you can get into your body, and because it does that, it limits you to the speed that you should be swimming at for your Ironman distance. So if you find that you can swim breathing bilaterally, that's a good marker of swimming at about Ironman pace, and you won't be able to go faster than that pace swimming breathing bilaterally. Question from Sousa Team, who says, how should I pace my swim? Well, Pacing the swim on race day is really difficult because you're not going to be getting any feedback as to how fast you're actually going. So the way to go about this is to learn how to pace in the pool, where we can be really quite accurate. The first thing that I want you to do is to take a critical swim speed test. You can just Google that if you don't know what it is. But off the basis of a 400 and 200 meter time trial, you can get something called your critical swim speed. And then for most people, their Ironman swim pace is about their CSS pace plus 8 seconds per 100 meters. So you're simply going to practice swimming your endurance swims at that pace. So for example, if your CSS pace came out at 2 minutes per 100, your Ironman swim pace would be about 2 minutes and 8 seconds per 100. And by practicing that in training, it's going to become much more like second nature before race day. Question from Kieran Kine. Kieran says, how long before the Ironman should I start practicing open water swimming? Well, Kieran, my advice here is going to be different depending on whether you're an experienced athlete who's swum in open water before or whether you're a total beginner to open water swimming. So firstly, for athletes who are a bit more experienced and who've done it before, I'd advise the last 4 to 6 weeks before your Ironman, or when you want to be doing your longest endurance swim of the week, out in the open water, getting used to the sensation of being in open water, the temperature, the feeling of swimming in a wetsuit if it's going to be a wetsuit swim. The 4 to 6 weeks there is usually enough for our experienced athletes that they'll be able to adjust and adapt ready for race day. For our beginners, I'd advise more like 8 to 10 weeks, and the first few of those sessions, just get used to the feeling of swimming in open water, what a wetsuit feels like. Don't worry about trying to do specific sessions, just get used to the sensation and then build up your distance and duration over the last 4 to 6 weeks before the race. Question from Arkan McAllister, who says, why is it so hard to breathe on my non-dominant arm side? Well, I'm sure this is something that lots of people have experienced as they've learned to try to get better at swimming as adults. We've got one side we're much more comfortable breathing on, and the other one can be either very difficult or almost impossible. But the good news is, the only reason it feels better on one side is that's the side that you've always practiced on. It will get better and it will get easier with practice. So you just have to practice breathing on your non-dominant side. My best advice here is to practice a drill where you take a breath on your non-dominant side as the first breath you take at the start of a length. So a big push and glide off the wall, and as you break out into your stroke, turn to your non-dominant side to breathe straight away and take a breath. And then it's not as important if you don't get that right. Then breathe normally all the way down the pool, and as you get to the wall again, take that breath on your non-dominant side again. Okay, question from Anthony Bowden, who says, does my arm need to be fully extended at the elbow during the pull, or does it need to be bent? So it's a great question, Anthony. We want your arm to be fully extended as the phase where it enters the water, but as soon as you start the catch and pull, we want your arm bending at the elbow and keeping the elbow relatively close to the surface of the water. The reason for that is we want you using the full forearm and your hand to pull against through the water. If you end up using a straight arm, a lot of that force goes down into the water, pushing your body upwards rather than moving you forward through the water. So what I want you concentrating on is as soon as that hand has entered the water, start to bend at the elbow and try and get into the position where you can use your entire forearm as well as your hand for pulling against to move you forward through the water. Question from Sergio Cana, who says, what's the average time for a 70.3 Ironman swim? So if we were to look at the middle swimmer in the pack at a 70.3, you'd see they're going to be somewhere in the region of 40 to 45 minutes over the 70.3 distance, so that's 1.9 kilometers. In a full Ironman, our middle swimmer is going to be somewhere in the range of 1 hour 25 to 1 hour 30. So in general, I think you're looking somewhere around the pace of 2 minutes per 100 to 2 minutes 5 seconds per 100 as the sort of average middle of the pack swimmer at these events. Now remember, you still have an hour 10 to complete a 70.3 swim, so there's loads of extra time there from the average swimmer, and you've got up to 2 hours 20 to complete the swim at an Ironman distance. What we want you doing is working in training to get yourself more into that middle of the pack and swimming easy and relaxed, so you've got plenty of energy left over for the rest of the bike and the run. Question from Ibendarala, who says, what training do you have to do for a 3.8 kilometre swim? Well, I'm going to assume you're a complete beginner here, and we're going to break your training up into 3 phases. The first phase is going to be all about making you a more efficient swimmer and technically better. So practicing specific swim drills that are going to improve your comfort breathing, they're going to improve your body position, and they're going to improve your catch and pull in the water. So we focus on becoming a technically better swimmer before we work on our fitness. The second phase of swimming is we're going to work on improving your endurance, and typically this is going to look like sets of repeated 100 meters with a short break so you don't get overly tired, so no really long swims. Gradually increase the length of that swim from 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, all the way through to the point where you can complete 3.8 kilometers. And then after that, we're going to work on transferring this ability for you to then swim in open water in a wetsuit. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Ask a Coach, collaboration between Team Oxygenaddict and Ironman Europe. Hope you found those answers helpful. Now, if you'd like a question answering, you can either email us through the question to help@oxygenaddict.com or keep an eye on Ironman Europe's Instagram feed. They'll be putting one of these Ask a Coach sessions up every month, and we'll do our very best to answer the questions that you've got and help you out on your training for Ironman. Now, before you go, if you could do us a really big favour, if you could hit like on this video if you've enjoyed it and if you found it helpful, and also if you would subscribe to the channel, that has 2 great effects. It firstly means you'll be notified when our new videos come out, but it also really helps the growth of this channel, which in turn helps us help more people. Also, if you're a podcast listener, you'll find that we put an episode of our podcast out every single week, full of information to help you improve, and also sometimes with pro and age group interviews as well. We also publish that on YouTube every week as well, so you'll be able to get notified to that if you've liked and subscribed to this video. So, on behalf of Ironman Europe and us, Team Oxygenaddict, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful, and join us again in a few more weeks' time when hopefully we'll have more questions to help you improve your Ironman performance.